Ever scroll through online stores, like maybe looking at a leather jacket and think, wait, how did this even get here?
Right.
We're talking about animal hides transformed into, well, something you'd buy and have delivered.
Yeah.
Today, we're going deep, really deep, into the world of import-export specialists, the
Hmm.
folks behind the scenes, especially those dealing with hides, skins, leather, the whole shebang.
Yeah, it's wild, right? You buy something online
Totally.
and you don't even think about all the stuff, all the steps to get it there.
Exactly. So we're using RoleCatcher's career resources this time, and honestly,
Yeah.
it's impressive how they break this whole career down.
It's a really interesting field.
It is. But before we go too far, what about this RoleCatcher thing?
Yeah.
They use AI for scoring resumes.
It's pretty cutting edge.
That's like another deep dive waiting to happen.
Totally.
But first, import-export specialists. What's the deal? What do they actually do?
Okay, so imagine them like the conductors of this global leather orchestra. They take the raw materials and make sure they become those finished products. And they're making sure everything moves smoothly across borders, regulations, customs, all that.
So it's like a global game of logistics chess
Yeah.
with, like, real stakes.
You got it. And it's not just about the actual goods, it's paperwork, cultural differences, rules that keep changing.
RoleCatcher makes their work environment sound really interesting, too.
Yeah.
What's it actually like?
Well, one day you could be, I don't know, in an office looking at shipping quotes.
Okay.
Next day, you're at a warehouse, maybe a shipping yard, checking on shipments.
So wait, it's not all just spreadsheets and phone calls then?
No way. You could even travel internationally,
Real?
meeting suppliers face to face, maybe checking out new markets.
So there's some adventure to it. Jet setting around with, like, a fancy briefcase.
Well, maybe a few glamorous trips, but let's be real, it's a demanding job.
Okay, yeah.
Long hours, especially when it's busy season. And it can be physical, too.
Physically demanding. How so?
Think about it. You're dealing with hides, leather, sometimes chemicals involved in the process.
Ah, that's right, for the tanning and all that.
Exactly. Safety is a big deal in this line of work.
So, not always glamorous. Got it.
Yeah.
But if you like fast-paced, always something new could be a good fit.
Totally. And get this. RoleCatcher talks about how much tech is changing things, like automation.
Oh, wow. So it's not like dusty old ledgers and stuff anymore.
Nope. Think AI platforms managing tons of shipments, optimizing routes, even predicting problems.
That's wild.
Yeah.
What does that mean for someone who wants to do this kind of work?
Got to be able to learn new things fast and be adaptable. That's key in this field.
So it's not enough to just learn the basics. You got to keep learning, always.
Exactly. But here's the good news. The need for these specialists is growing globally.
That's reassuring. So is this career right for everyone? RoleCatcher gave us the pros and cons.
There's definitely both. It's about finding what fits you.
Should we unpack those pros and cons then?
Yeah.
Help people figure out if this is their thing?
Let's do it.
So, pros and cons time. RoleCatcher definitely highlights the travel, like who doesn't want to explore new places?
It's a big perk, for sure. One week you're in, say, Italy negotiating with a supplier. The next you're at a tannery in Brazil.
Okay, that sounds amazing.
It's a chance to really experience different cultures, build those relationships globally.
Sign me up for that Italian trip. But I'm guessing there are downsides too. Travel isn't always easy.
You got it. Long flights, time zones, sometimes even needing a little language practice.
Right.
And while experiencing new cultures is great, it means being adaptable, understanding the nuances, what flies in one place might not in another.
It's more than just sightseeing. It's understanding how business gets done.
Right, exactly.
Okay, what about the money? RoleCatcher mentioned good earning potential, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
These specialists are in demand. The more experience, the more expertise you build, the better your chances of a good salary.
So those long hours, tough negotiations, they could pay off.
They definitely can. Big but, though.
Uh-oh. There's always a but.
High reward, high pressure, tight deadlines, clients who want what they want, and you got to stay ahead of everyone else doing what you do.
Sounds intense.
You got to be able to think on your feet, make decisions, and come up with solutions when things go wrong because, well, they will.
Speaking of things being tough,
Yeah.
RoleCatcher didn't sugarcoat it. Long hours, right? Deadlines, quotas.
Yeah, it's not always 9 to 5. Late nights, getting those shipments out, calls across time zones. It takes energy.
Work-life balance. Does that even exist in this job?
It can be tough, especially early on when you're proving yourself. RoleCatcher did say that lots of experienced folks find that balance. setting boundaries, using tech to their advantage, maybe even focusing on a niche part of the industry.
Finding that balance is like the dream, right?
Totally. But for those who love this kind of work, the international trade, the problem solving, it can be incredibly rewarding.
A global adventure with a side of spreadsheets.
Something like that.
So let's say someone's hearing this and thinking, okay, how do I actually become one of these specialists?
RoleCatcher gave some great tips. Education's a good place to start, just like a lot of careers.
Makes sense. What should someone study?
International business, logistics, anything related to supply chains, even something super specific like customs or excise could be helpful.
But it's always a but.
But they emphasize that experience is just as important, maybe even more so. It's not enough to just know the theory.
So how does someone get that experience? It's like a catch-22.
Internships, that's a big one. Or even entry-level jobs at import-export places. Even working in a related field like freight forwarding or customs can give you a taste.
Real-world stuff. That makes sense.
Yeah.
But what about standing out? What did RoleCatcher say about that?
Networking, big time. They said going to industry events, trade shows is huge, or joining those professional groups like the International Trade Association, even connecting with people online, LinkedIn, places like that.
Because it's about who you know.
Right? Sometimes, yeah. And they also mentioned study abroad programs, especially ones focused on business or international relations.
So build your network and see the world.
Exactly. Immerse yourself in another culture, see how business works there, and maybe make some connections that'll help later on.
Speaking of helpful, what about certifications? I feel like those are becoming more and more important these days.
RoleCatcher definitely agrees. They're like proof that you know your stuff. They mentioned a few. Certified Customs Specialist, Certified Export Specialist, things like that. Shows you're serious?
Levels you up, right?
For sure. It tells employers you didn't just stop with the basics, you went further.
And that learning, it never really stops in this field, does it? Based on everything we're talking about.
Not at all. RoleCatcher really emphasized that. New regulations, tech advancements, the whole global market shifting, it's always changing.
So how do you even keep up? Asking for a friend.
They said trade publications, industry newsletters, stuff like that, gets you the important info without having to dig for it.
Smart. Anything else?
They also said it's crucial to stay connected to the official sources. Government agencies, international trade organizations. They're the ones with the most up-to-date info on rules, trade agreements, all that.
Got it. So bookmark those government websites, folks.
Yeah.
It's not just about knowing what's what. It's about staying on the right side of the law.
100%. You have to know the rules in this field. No two ways about it.
Okay, so we've covered a ton about what these specialists do, the skills, all that. But let's get real. The interview, that's the make or break moment.
Totally. That's where you show what you know, but also who you are. Your personality, your soft skills, those matter, especially in a field where you're working with people all over the world.
And RoleCatcher was kind enough to give us some sample questions. Want to play a little interview insider? All right, game on. Hit me with that first sample question.
Okay, so imagine you're in the hot seat and they ask, how do you ensure timely delivery if there are, like, surprise delays, supply chain issues, that sort of thing?
Oh, that's a good one. Because in global trade, isn't that like every other Tuesday?
Pretty much. They want to see you're a problem solver, not just someone who knows the plan when it all goes perfectly.
Makes sense. Got to be adaptable. What's another one that might make someone sweat a bit?
Ooh, how do you negotiate good prices with suppliers, but also, not ruin the relationship?
It's that fine line, right? You don't want to be like a pushover, but you can't just think short term either.
Right. You need that balance. A good specialist knows it's about everyone winning, not just getting the cheapest deal today.
Long-term thinking, building that trust. Okay, last question. What's the one that really shows who knows their stuff?
How do you stay updated on all the import-export rules? Like, how do you know you're current? Sounds basic, but it's about more than just knowing the answer that day.
It's about showing you're truly invested.
Yep.
Like you're not just Googling stuff 5 minutes before a meeting.
Exactly. Being curious, always learning, that's what makes someone stand out.
That's true in a lot of fields, I think. Never stop learning. Well, we've reached the end of our deep dive. Import-export specialists in the leather industry. Who knew there was so much to it?
Right. It's way more than just moving stuff around the world. It's business, it's culture. It's a bit of a puzzle, honestly, with all the moving parts.
Big thanks to RoleCatcher for giving us the inside scoop.
Their insights were super helpful.
So for anyone listening who's thinking about this career, or maybe about to interview someone who does this, hopefully, this gave you some things to think about.
Definitely. And for everyone else, next time you buy something leather, think about the journey it took.
Until next time.